Anurov.
How you doing, Jay?
Hey.
All right. So when we talk about tag, right, and universals proving or presupposing the existence of God, I'm kind of confused as to how you would show that logic proves the existence of God.
Well, the way I like that's precisely why I like to make the argument the way I do, which is to argue that tag is really pre-logical. Okay, so, and yeah, I recognize that you're still using logic, but that's a category error, because that's why we say that you can never escape the circularity of the metalogical question of asking, how does logic even work? How do we know logic works? So the logic element of the argument is saying that prior to the actual doing of like first order argumentation that we normally do in logic, we're actually saying that this is a pre-logical question about how is logic even possible at all. So that's all metalogic means, is how do we know logic itself works? How do we know logic is logical? And there's nothing wrong with asking that question. It's a whole branch of philosophy. It's called metalogic. It's you could say it's part of metaphysics even, right? So the idea that I make this up is just ignorance, right? It's not made up. So I'm just taking a discipline, metalogic, or a domain of epistemology metaphysics, and I'm saying that this is relevant for how we do tag, because we're saying that prior to the doing of any argumentation at all, there are preconditions for the possibility of logic, right? And that would be, in my argument, God himself. God and the specific theology that we have in our tradition is the grounding for the possibility of logic. Now, I'm not arguing that it's true because I said that. I'm arguing that it actually does the work of explaining how the transcendental categories are possible. So that's it. It may sound fancy and obscure, whatever. It's actually pretty simple if you just understand that it's an argument about anything prior to argumentation.
Why can't these universals just blanket exist? Like, why can't nature just be consistent?
Okay, for number one, that's arbitrary. So to say something just is to be arbitrary. Just is what? And if you can posit in a debate that something just is, so can I. So God just is. So just saying something is doesn't do the grounding work. It's arbitrary. And also, where are they? What are they? Just to say a universal is to say absolutely nothing. And it doesn't actually do any grounding work. I mean, universals can't exist in a vacuum. Okay? In my view, they are grounded in the divine mind. And because I have an omniscient being who is all-knowing and is all-provident, etc., that works to do the grounding. I mean, it's a consistent, coherent position. I'm not saying it's true because I say that. I'm saying that makes sense, that's coherent. The position where there is no location or grounding or explanation of what universals are, they're just asserting that it is, doesn't do any grounding work.
So, like, when we look at, I think you answered the question already, but I wrote it down anyway. I'm going to ask. So, we don't need God to know that the sun's going to rise tomorrow. That's just a fact about nature, right? How would you respond to an atheist where they say, why do you need God anyway?
Well, again, it's arguing that you do ultimately need God to know that, because knowing mundane facts is resting on transcendental categories. And so what's the grounding for the transcendental categories? So the preconditions of knowledge, right? So that's a knowledge claim. I know the sun will rise tomorrow. Okay. But how do you know knowledge is possible at all? So that's a prior claim to any empirical claim or any knowledge claim. So when we're arguing about preconditions of knowledge, it's going to be more fundamental and more prior to anything that's a knowledge claim. So yes, you do need God. Let's be clear what we mean by, do I need, quote, God to know the sun will rise tomorrow? For epistemic justification, you need the theology and the belief of God, in God. It doesn't mean that atheists don't have propositional knowledge about, or beliefs about the sun rising tomorrow. It means justifying the knowledge, not do they have that belief or that knowledge. It means they can't justify the knowledge.
So then, okay, yeah. So I guess
let me explain the difference there, because do I know that my car runs on computer chips? Yes. Can I explain to you how they work? No. Right. So I can't explain the how, or I don't know what's going on, but I can still drive my car and have a knowledge of the car running without knowing about the computer chips that run the car or the computer. Right. So in the same way, can an atheist believe that the sun will rise tomorrow? Yes. But as David Hume says, as a more consistent atheist, he cannot justify that belief.